What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Life by Design. I'm your host, Tarek El Moussa, and Life by Design is all about building the life you've always wanted. So I'm here to give you the tools and techniques to build that life that you've always dreamed of. Today's guest is Mikey Taylor. He's an ex-professional skateboarder, serial entrepreneur, and a real estate investor. I am so excited to have him because we're similar in so many different ways. We're about the same age, we live in the same state, and we live pretty close to each other. And on top of that, we're both obsessed with real estate. So today, I'm really excited to get to know him, and I can't wait for you to hear. Today's episode is all about why practice and discipline is so important in reaching your goals. What do you have to say about repetition? Because when you're skateboarding, you try the same trick, I don't know how many times, right?
Yeah.
I have a question about that.
Okay.
I am the worst skateboarder in the world, but I was that kid who's like, hey, all the cool kids got a skateboard, let me get a skateboard. I am not a skateboarder at all.
Yeah.
How in the heck did you figure that out? Like, how many times would you have to try a trick before you nail it?
So in the beginning, a lot longer than now. Right,
Yeah.
like when I was learning how to ollie, which is the first trick you do when you jump and the board sticks with you. Dude, I tried it for maybe 6 months every single day for 3 hours until I finally did it. You know, and then you move into, like you said, a kickflip, right? Kickflip was the same thing. I tried a kickflip for 7 months over and over and over until I landed it one time, right?
Okay.
So my whole experience through skateboarding was you better spend a lot of time learning it until you get to land it, but all of that work that built up to actually experiencing that first time made it so much more rewarding. And then as you get better, you get to a point where I just had to think of it. Once I thought of it, I could do it. And it might take some tries, but not like in the beginning.
Yeah, so that's very interesting because I thought you were going to tell me you learned how to kickflip and ollie in your first day.
No, months and months.
Okay, so I thought you were just this naturally talented, gifted skateboarder. So you actually had to put that much work in? Maybe I'm not that awful of a skateboarder.
Okay,
maybe
no.
I was just a quitter.
Okay, so this is a good,
Yeah.
So you will have some people that are just have a natural ability and are able to learn faster, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you learn how to kickflip in a day, but the process in which they learn is probably quicker than mine because I wasn't that I wasn't the kid who everybody looked at and went, God, he's just so good at everything. With skating, I was the one who just wouldn't give up. Right. So out of my friends, I was the last one to get sponsored. I was the one that everybody looked like he got sponsored. And then I turned pro. I was like, he turned pro?
Wait, he turned pro? Yeah. Wait, that guy? Mr. Kickflip? 6-month kickflip?
Yeah. Guy? So dude, I am a testament of it doesn't matter how easy it comes. It just matters that you go through all the work you need to be able to get good at it.
I love that. So for me, I learned a lot of my business skills through sports growing up. I learned about hard work, competition, all those different things. And obviously you're an amazing entrepreneur. You're a professional skateboarder, you're an entrepreneur, you're a real estate investor. So do you think you took those skills that you learned skateboarding, trying the same thing over and over and over and over, and do you think you took those lessons into the business world?
Yes. I think skating became the foundation of how I applied myself into everything, right? So the idea that I was willing to put in the work to be able to succeed definitely transferred over into business. This idea that skateboarders fail 99.5% of the time just to experience the joy of it a fraction of a percentage, right? So I think all of that looking forward, I just had a different view of fear and failure. Right? So that made it easier for me to go into new things and not get discouraged when things got tough. But I didn't go to school. Everything I learned was from skateboarding and then actual experience. So moving into business, there was definitely, it was an eye-opening experience to go, holy crap, there's a ton I don't know.
Right.
But I think going into it thinking, yeah, I might not know it, but I'm gonna know it, came from skating for sure. Yeah,
so you said two things which really relates to skateboarding. You said the word fear and you said failure. So what's interesting about skateboarding, there's both fear and failure, but the fear part is you can get hurt.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, I tried to run 2 miles and I made it a mile. It's no, I tried to jump a gap and I broke my leg, right? So Like, how do you, when you were first getting hurt, like trying skateboarding, trying these tricks, like how do you get back up and keep going after you like seriously banged the shit up out of your body?
Yeah, so such an interesting point, because I think people look at whether it's skaters or snowboarders or maybe the guys doing the motorcycle, they look at them and go, okay, these guys are just crazy. They're just not scared, right? But people don't realize that everyone is scared. It just is how you manage the fear. And so with skating, that was a big part of the beginning stages for me. Is I was scared to try handrails. I was scared to jump off stairs. And in the beginning, I was just like, I think so stubborn that I wouldn't give up, right? And so like talking about all my friends and them being better than me, when we would go to spots, we'd jump out of the car and they would run up and start jumping off the stairs, jumping on the rails. And I couldn't. I would roll up, stop, get scared, come back. And I remember getting to a point where everyone had landed their tricks and I'm still running up in the run up, the roll up, and I can't get my body to go up the stairs, right? And I just had to go through this process where I just forced myself over and over and over until I was mentally exhausted. And then I couldn't think enough and my body just jumped off it one time, right?
You know what's interesting about that? Because that's like an entrepreneurial mindset though. They're just going for it, right? You went in, you were gonna go for it, but you really thought about it before you went for it. So you had to prepare yourself. And that's why you became, in my opinion, a successful entrepreneur, is because of the thought process that you put into things that you're doing. So even though you're scared to do those things or you weren't as fast as everybody else, you just took a lot more time to actually understand and like get comfortable before you did it.
100%. And then what happens is through repetition or through practice, you become more confident, right? So in the beginning, it might have taken me 100 times to roll up before I tried it because I was scared. Well, the next time it only took me 85. And then 75, and then before you know it, my fear is no longer in front of me, stopping me. It's kind of riding pari passu and then ultimately behind me, right? And then I was still scared, but it no longer stopped me from achieving. And that all of this came from skating, man. This is all just like
but there's so many lessons. Like your skateboarding is like me sports growing up. Like when I say I practiced, like I was a good athlete, but I had to be the best, like when I played baseball growing up. I'm not kidding. I spent when you were out there skateboarding 4 hours a day, I was playing baseball 4 hours a day. I played so much baseball that I thought I was gonna go really, really far with baseball. Unfortunately, I was a pitcher and my shoulder went bad in high school. So it kind of ruined me at a young age, but I wouldn't change anything for the world, but I took those lessons into the real world. So here's something interesting. I always talk about how, it doesn't matter what it is, it's always harder at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm assuming it was harder to learn how to do a kickflip than your first time doing a rail, right?
Yes. So yeah, well, I mean, there's levels, right? In the beginning, you're trying to figure it out. As you start kind of unlocking these keys or elements, you have just a bigger arsenal to apply, right? So it might get scarier and harder as you move up, but you're more prepared so it doesn't seem as challenging. Look for win business, right? Like with what you do. You're at a position where you could do bigger projects, multiple projects at a time, where in the beginning, it's only, let's say, one house, right? And that one house is probably so much more overwhelming because there were so many parts to it that you didn't understand, that moving forward, yes, your operation is way more complicated, but easier to manage now, right?
That's true. So
same thing applies.
I tell people this all the time. So I was more stressed out at the beginning flipping 2 houses at one time versus the most houses I've ever flipped at one time, which is 74. So it was more stressful to do 2 houses at the beginning than 3 years later doing 74.
100%.
Isn't that crazy how that works?
Look, for me, my first handrail was 4 stairs, right? 4. And that was scarier than 10 years later when I was able to do 20 plus stair handrails, right?
That is crazy.
So much more can go wrong here. This was way scarier.
Man, that is awesome. So skateboarding, right? So it's funny, I've heard you talk a lot about your friends who just jump all in, they're naturally gifted, and then all of a sudden you're the one who became sponsored. So how did you go from amateur skateboarder to becoming a sponsored skateboarder, and why did you become sponsored? What was like the motivating factor? Did you see yourself making millions of dollars as a skateboarder?
It's so funny, man. No, it was a hack. It was my parents and me, because I was about 16, and my parents were like, hey dude, you need to start getting a job. Right? And I had something that like I was so obsessed with that I wasn't ready to let it go. So I was in this predicament where I was like, okay, I either need to get a job and I can't do this as much, or I need to come up with a creative way to continue doing this. And at that point I was like, well, look, like if I get a job, what do I need? Like, what is a job gonna do for me? Well, I'm gonna have money to buy clothes and shoes and skateboards and food. Well, what if I can get people to give me free stuff and I get to continue to skate, and if I need money to eat, I just sell some of the product I got for free. So I come up with this plan, I tell my parents, and like, I think they thought it was like so crazy and unachievable that they were like, yeah, sure. You go get sponsored, you don't need a job.
Go for it.
And so that was the beginning stage of me trying to figure out how to get sponsored.
Okay, so here's what I just read from that. So you took all the fear of getting a real job.
Yeah.
And you took that to fuel yourself as a skateboarder.
Yeah.
Is that amazing?
Well, yeah, I mean,
you didn't want a job so bad that you became a professional skateboarder.
But look, fear's powerful, right?
Yeah.
Fear either cripples you or propels you.
Yeah.
It all depends on what you use it for. My fear just forced me to have to figure this out. If the fear wasn't there, I would have just kept skating for fun. Maybe none of this would have ever happened.
Exactly.
Right? But yeah, I mean, dude, when we go more into my story, you'll see how much fear was a big component to what I was able to do.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. I mean, like talking about fear, there's fear in everything, and especially in what you've done. And there's a lot of fear in the business world too. So how did you like handle the fear when you were skateboarding? Like seriously, how do you jump into a pool and like you're 10 feet, 20 feet in the air, whatever you guys are doing, and you can get really hurt. Like how do you practice and fall, not on the grass, not on the dirt, like but on concrete? Like how do you get back up and try that again?
So the fear element to it, right? It's like, did you ever see that movie with Will Smith and his kid? Something when they're like out in space and it's all about fear, something like that. I can't remember the name of it.
I don't forget.
Okay, anyway. So fear really in a sense it's our mind's way of keeping ourselves safe through the unknown, right? So what I would do is I would have to constantly play tricks on my mind to get myself to get through it. So it was like a big game for me. Yeah. Right? So I would just work on ways to convince myself that I wasn't going to get hurt, or what would be my way out if something bad happened, until like your mind goes, okay, that kind of makes sense. And then I would just do it, right? When you get hurt or you're faced with pain being associated with you messing up, that's a different thing you need to work through to get yourself to continue to do it. And for me, like when I would fall or it would hurt, I would just try to stay focused on what I was trying to achieve, right? And become obsessed with that end goal, so that it felt like this war I was in was like, it was worth where I was headed, but I had to stay focused on where I wanted to go.
So what I'm getting, which most people don't have the ability to do, that your fear of failing was scarier than your fear of getting hurt.
Oh, 100%. Look,
most people, their fear of getting hurt would be much greater than their fear of failing.
Yes.
So that's the deciding factor, right?
Well, look, the funny thing is, it's just a small difference in somebody who is successful and who's not, right? It's almost like they are just like barely missing it. And that is, I think, like the simplest way to look at that hack. It's like, it's that little of a difference to just go, oh, you know what? Yeah, you just need to look at this more than that. You need to look at the fear of failing greater than the fear of getting hurt, you know? And it's so close, you just gotta tweak it a little bit.
No, that's what I like about you. So you're like me, man. I'm an all-inner. Like, I go all in. And you know what's like funny about me? Like, I'm the guy growing up, I did everything. I would do something, obsess over it, and then get bored with it.
Yeah.
And then I'd go on to the next thing, obsess over it, get bored with it.
Yeah.
And then that's why I got really excited when I got into the business world, because I became obsessed with it, and you can't get bored with it because it's unlimited, because there's no ceiling, there's no limit to what you can achieve in life.
Yeah, you and I are very similar on that point.
So are you an all-inner?
I'm all in. I'm like you. I'm a very obsessive personality. When I go into something, it consumes me, right? So when I would, if it was like I started riding bikes, I wanted to be the best, greatest biker I could ever be, and I would be obsessed with it for 3 months, and then it would lose its interest, and I would go on to the next thing, right? And what I ended up learning about myself is once the challenge goes away, I lose interest. And I think that's really what it was about skating that grabbed me, is it was so hard that it just took me 25 years of trying to master it, and I was never able to. So the desire of like, oh yeah, I have this figured out, it's too easy, was never there. Yeah, and then you move into like what you said with business. It's the beauty of business is you're forever chasing it.
Yeah.
You never get to a point where, oh yeah, I got this mastered. If you do, you're just doing the wrong thing. That was like I'm the same way.
You can't master it.
No.
And I think that's why you like it so much, just like me, because you can't master it. And the truth is, you can never be the best in the entire world at that thing because there's so much room to grow, and there's always someone bigger, there's always someone better, there's always someone more successful. Yeah. So for me, like, that keeps me motivated and driven, and seeing people like you motivates me. I'm like, okay, he's the same age as me, he's a real estate investor, he's known, he has a huge social media following, he's a professional athlete, and that shit inspires me. I'm like, all right, I need to up my game. Yeah. So I just love everything about business and inspiration and motivation.
Me too. And all I have a feeling we're gonna have some cool conversations about that.
Yeah, and you have to love what you do. Like, I'm obsessed with everything I do. Like, I've designed my life, and the podcast is called Life by Design, to be the life like I want. I love doing this right now, doing this podcast with you right now. I love flipping houses. I love talking business. So, like, what are your thoughts on that? How important it is to do what you love?
I think it's everything. I think it's like, look, for me, I'm very similar in a sense of I have to be doing things that I love. Really, because if I'm doing something I don't love, I don't get the same output out of myself into it, right? Like, if I'm in, dude, I'm gonna be driving 150% at that goal. If I'm not in, I'm actually pretty shitty at it. Like, I'm not very communicative, I'm not very motivated, I'm a complete waste.
Oh my gosh.
So for me, I have to find the thing that I'm into. The challenge that I've always had is I've never been able to pick the thing and then say, okay, become obsessed with it. I've always needed the thing to grab me, right? So with skating, for example, I didn't sit back and go, you know what, I could be the best skateboarder, I'm gonna become obsessed and do it. I had to have skateboarding come in and grab me and go, oh yeah, this is it, right? And that is actually what became very scary for me moving out of skateboarding, was I wasn't sure what that next thing was gonna be that was gonna grab me and put me in this position of I'm all in and I'm gonna be unstoppable. That was the fear I had. But I think if you look at something like how I did with skating, right? You find the thing you love, you find the thing that you would do regardless if somebody paid you. Yeah. And you figure out a way to have that become your job. That's when this thing starts getting dangerous. You know, agree. I just think people don't realize that, like, they can both be the same.
Yeah, because like so many people, they live their lives, they go get a job because it looks good on paper. And that's why I'm so against that. I'm all about, if you're doing something you love, you'll be successful. Yeah. Like, if I loved, like, I don't know, cutting trees, I'd have the biggest landscape company. Like, that's a stupid analogy. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, everybody likes something, which means they'll be good at that thing.
Totally.
So it's all about finding what you love, and a lot of people don't take the actual time to find out what they love.
Well, I think that, and too, like, look at, like, this is a new type of message, right? Like, when I was growing up, what I was told is you have a job that you get for stability, and then you have something you do on the side that's fun. No one ever told you you can blend the two.
No one ever said you can do both.
Exactly. So now we're in this time where it's actually possible. You have people like you and I and all these people communicating it on these platforms that, hey guys, you can do it. And now kids have the accessibility to do it, right? We could create a new brand right here on our phone. Everyone can do that. So the barrier to entry has become a lot lower for kids to go, you know what, I like this and I'm gonna create a business, I'm gonna do it on my phone and I could do this now.
I love this. So here's something I've never talked about, so we'll talk about it right now. Millennials. Yeah. So many people talk so much shit on millennials, right? Oh, these kids, they're lazy. And I'm like, no offense, those lazy kids smoking a joint on the couch are geniuses. Yeah. You wanna know why? Because instead of working a 9 to 5, they're sitting at home, messing around with social media, figuring out easier ways to make money faster. That's talent.
That's talent. And the thing that people mix up is, like, lazy doesn't always mean unproductive.
Right.
Right? You can be so lazy that you don't want to work as hard as you, so you'll come up with more efficient ways to get more done with less work. To me, that's what, like, the millennials, not to say lazy, but millennials to me seem like, you know what? Your model, just because you worked more hours, doesn't mean that's the best model. I actually think there's a way where I can do more than that with less time.
Exactly. So I get so offended when people, like, say bad thing about millennials. Oh, the future's this, it's screwed. It's like, I'm like, no, it's not. They're brilliant. Like, the millennials are the reason why we have a lot of the things we have today.
Yeah, totally.
And they are the future.
They're different. That's the problem.
They're creative.
Right? Different. I mean, dude, I think this has been happening forever, right? You have the new generation that looks at you have the old generation that looks at the new generation, and they go, they're not going to pull it. they're different than us.
Yeah.
It's just like ongoing cycle, but it's like, you know what? Just let time tell.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting about, how old are you? You're 30?
36.
Okay, I'm 37. So
we're both technically millennials.
Yeah, we are. Actually, we barely made it. We barely made it. I tell people that, like, yeah, we're right. Yeah, so technically, yeah, you're right. We are. What's very interesting about us when we were born, like early 80s and the age we are today, we still have a part of the millennial.
Yeah.
Like we have those vibes to us and then the previous generation vibes. So we're kind of a hybrid, which is actually really good. So a lot of my like business sense, entrepreneurial sense, I use the generation of the 60s and 70s, but then my creative side of things, I use more like the millennial side.
Yep.
So it's really cool that you see that, because a lot of people talk so much shit on millennials, and I think they're amazing. They're brilliant kids.
I do too. And we actually talk about that point a lot because all my friends are of this age where we're on both sides of the playing field almost, right? So we've been taught this like work ethic mentality that you just work harder than the guy next to you. But then also we were born in watching the existence of social media and the internet rise, right? So it's like we get to sit on both sides of the fence, which I think is pretty awesome. But yeah, dude, millennials, I think they're
great. Like, so when I like first built my businesses, I built it through grinding, dude. Like worked 18, 20 hours a day, just grinding. There was no, like, seriously, when I built, like, here's the truth about how I learned about flipping houses and real estate. Like, I didn't go to school, I didn't read books, like, I did full on hard work, trial and error. Like, I just did everything. I hung signs on freeways at 3 a.m., dude. Like, I sent handwritten letters. I went door to door. I went to notice of defaults. I cold call. I did handwritten letters. Like, I did everything humanly possible, and that's how I learned about real estate.
Yeah.
And looking back, like, there was so many better ways to approach to learn actually how to invest in real estate and do these things. But I was just so used to just hard work, grinding it out. But eventually, if you work hard at anything, whether you take the time to study it, you're gonna learn it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I feel like if I had the millennial mindset earlier on, I think I would have achieved things much faster.
Yeah, I'm with you. Totally agree. My process was very similar.
Yeah.
I'm a trial and error guy, 100%.
And try everything, right?
Try everything, because I would rather try and fail than sit on the other side and wonder. Like the idea of like, what would I have been if I would have went for it? That is the worst thing for someone like me. I'll drive myself mad that way. So I'd rather just like, I'm just gonna try and figure it out. If this doesn't work, I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna try it again.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that? So I'll never forget. I think I was like 12 years old, and I remember a kid called me a poser. I was 12 years old. And I was supposed to, what's a poser? And I started thinking about posers, like, they try to like be something. Because I rode a BMX bike, a dirt bike, or a go-kart. Like, I did everything. I wasn't exceptional at anything, but I just did everything because I wanted to try different things to figure out what I loved.
Yeah.
And looking back, hell yeah, call me a poser, great, because I've tried everything and I know what I like and I know what I don't like. So I take all those different things that I've tried as education.
Yeah, it's true. Hey, look, I got called a poser too, man.
Yeah, you got to try everything. They're just jealous. Where are those kids at now? So let's talk about instant gratification, because everybody wants everything now. And the truth is, when it comes to business, skateboarding, anything, if you're gonna be good at it, it's gonna take time. So you started skateboarding at what age?
13.
13. And at what age did you start getting paid for skateboarding?
19.
When you were 13, did you ever think you were gonna get paid one day?
No. And even when I started getting paid, it was little. But I'm a big believer in do what you love and the money will follow.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you chase the money, it's never gonna do it for you. So yeah, I just found the thing I loved, and like I said, just tried to hack my way into making a little bit of money at it. But it was just like, dude, I enjoyed it so much that like even when I was making like $1,000 a month, dude, it was a win, because now I was making a little bit of money loving what I was doing. And then I just had to figure out how to make more and more, but yeah, dude, it's like, I think that's when you have something special, when you do something and it doesn't matter if you're making money or not.
Exactly. So that's what the really cool part. You ended up making a lot of money doing it. So you started making money at 19 in skateboarding. So at what age did you actually start investing? Because most people, 19 years old, they make money skateboarding, they blow the money.
Yeah. I started when I was about 22.
So you started young.
I started really young.
So you already had the investor mindset early on in your skateboarding career.
No.
Okay, so how did you start investing?
Fear. Dude, I'm telling you, fear has played a big component of what I do now.
Me too.
I had found something that I loved, but I wasn't going to be able to do it forever, right? And I was so scared about what my life was going to look like after skateboarding that I was out of fear trying to figure out how to put myself in a safe position. And so I ended up meeting this guy who would end up becoming like my biggest mentor. And he managed money, owned a wealth management company and ran a real estate fund. And he was like, became my friend that taught me about money, taught me about budgeting, taught me about investing. And it was the first time I felt like I actually had a plan to put to work to help solve this scary, scary issue I was dealing with.
Let me ask you this. So was that scary for you as a young kid, like meeting these business people, talking about investing? Like, what was that like? Because you can't learn that.
No, scary's, I think I was trying to solve that problem so much that I was willing to try anything, which could have resulted in a different situation, right? But really, as he started telling me, he started simple. Like, it wasn't all about investing at first. Like, the beginning was putting myself on a budget, right? It was understanding, the amount that you live off of. And I was just starting to make money. So he was like, look, we're gonna separate what you need and what you want, right? You have discretionary, non-discretionary. And once you understand that, then we'll set what you're gonna pay yourself. And then as you make more money, you're gonna try and still remain on this lifestyle, right? So that was something that I could understand at a young age, but it was hard. So I didn't start like obsessing over this process until I started seeing my money working, right? So when he started telling me about this idea of like, dude, you could put money into things and then that money can bring you back money, I thought it was bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? But then once it started working and I started having money come in that I didn't do anything for, then the obsession kicked in and it was like, holy shit, this is how I get out of my industry safely. And now this living below my means and maximizing the money I could put in, I had become obsessed with, right? So it was just experience with this guy showing me how it worked, and then me living like I was poor when I wasn't so bad because I was focused on where I wanted to go.
See, you're like me, so what really fuels me is fear.
Yeah.
Like, the reason I'm so obsessed with like buying rentals and getting cash flow is just because of the fact I never want to worry about having to work again.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I don't ever want to be like, I have to go to work.
Yeah, I'm the same
I
way.
have to do this.
Yeah.
I want to do anything the hell I want, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to live a life where I can do nothing if I don't want to. Does that make sense?
I am 100% in line with what you're talking about. The challenge to it is you can't, like what you're talking about is a process in which you have to be patient for, right?
Yeah.
And it's like what we were talking about earlier with like instant gratification. If you have instant gratification and you need everything now, everything we're talking about is unachievable, right? Because what we're talking about is going through a bunch of hard work now to benefit our lives down the road, right? Delayed gratification. Yeah. So I think for me, because I had learned that through skating, right? It took me 7 months to learn how to do a kickflip.
Yeah.
I was comfortable in this process of I don't need it now because I want something greater down the line. So then when it came to investing or living on a budget, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm watching all my friends buy nice stuff. All my friends at 21 are driving around in S550s, and I'm driving around in a Honda Civic. That is hard to watch and hard to do, right? But I had to tell myself, okay, look, you're gonna thank yourself later because what you're gonna get on the other end is gonna be greater than what they're gonna have on the other end. So humble yourself now, reward back over there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, even myself, like, I do have a nice house. I have a very nice house. But I didn't go out and buy some like ridiculously expensive, like, look at me, $10 million house, because if I did that, I'm gonna have to work and so much of my capital would be tied up just to have this big showy house. Instead, I bought a nice house, took that money, and I bought close to 100 other houses that every month they bring cash flow. So my cash flow on my rentals covers my mortgage payment, covers my car payments, covers everything.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, put it this way, I'm 37 years old, I could retire today and live an amazing life for the rest of my life and make a lot of money doing nothing just based on my investments.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing to say because my entire life I've dreamed of saying that. Am I slowing down? No. Am I just getting started? Yes, but I have the option to where I never have to, I remember the days when I didn't know how to pay my bills. And it was the worst feeling in the world. I remember going to Subway and splitting $5 footlongs with my ex-wife because we couldn't afford 2 sandwiches. I remember getting water cups and stealing freaking lemonade
Yeah.
because I didn't have the $1.50 for the soda.
Yeah.
And this wasn't 20 years ago. This was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to think how fast life moves.
Totally.
And I use that fear of never wanting to go through that again to motivate me to do bigger things.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I know what it's like to have nothing, and I know what it's like to have almost everything.
Yeah.
And I know that I never want to have that feeling of nothing again.
Yeah.
And that is why I get up every day. That is why I work so hard every day. And I'm excited. And people ask me all the time, it's like, oh, you're such like a happy, positive guy. Is that all bullshit? I'm like, no. They're like, well, how are you so like happy and positive? I'm like, I had days where I couldn't put gas in my car. Like, of course I'm happy. I got a Lamborghini in the garage and the battery's dead because I don't drive it. Like, that's why I don't need it, right?
Yeah.
So just to be able to say things like that, like I was poor, like I had nothing. Of course I'm happy.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare getting here. It was frustrating as hell. I failed over and over and over, and I had sleepless nights for not weeks, not months, for years. Like years of sleepless nights to get to where I am.
Yeah.
And it was worth every second.
Yeah.
Because for the rest of my life, I know I can do anything the hell I want.
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling.
Well, you've experienced it now,
Yeah.
right? You've experienced on the other end what it takes to do all of this suffering, and now the position you're in where you don't have to work. You get to choose to work,
choose.
right? But you have to be willing to go through that shit to be able to put yourself in a greater position.
I love what
right?
you just said. So you said choose. So a lot of times I'll get anxiety, I'll stressed out, and I'll start freaking out. And then I remind myself that, wait a minute, this is a choice. You are choosing to book 20 interviews in one day. No one's making you do that.
Yeah.
You are choosing to go to South Africa for a 20-hour turnaround trip.
Yeah.
You're choosing that.
Yep.
So that always helps me take a step back and relax because it reminds me I don't have to do this.
Yep.
I'm choosing to do this.
Yep.
And that's what really helps me. So speaking of investing and building businesses, you're a serial entrepreneur. So what are you working on real estate-wise and also outside of real estate?
Well, right now it's pretty much just real estate because the other companies that I started prior to this, this is the newest one. So
What's the newest one?
the newest one is Commune Capital, which is the real estate fund.
So Commune Capital is a real estate fund. And what is Commune Capital? What are they buying and where are they buying?
So we buy multifamily apartments. We do it throughout the nation. And we either renovate or repurpose, redevelop properties. So that, it's funny, man. I almost have to take you like through the beginning, which will make more sense to why this company now.
Take
right?
me.
So like the process that you were on of like trying to get to a point where you didn't have to work, you got to choose to work. I learned that almost by accident, right? Because I had a career that I never wanted to end. Like, truthfully, if somebody would have said, like, dude, you can be a pro skateboarder for the rest of your life, that's all I would have done. I would have never started businesses. I would not be doing what I'm doing now because I love this so much, right? It was the problem of me not being able to do it forever and having to figure out a way to support myself beyond that, right? And that's when this, like, I stumbled into this idea of passive income. Yeah. Right? When I started investing in things, I was investing in a lot of real estate. We were doing storage units at that time. And when I started seeing that I would get a return on my money that I could count on and it would show up without me working, that was me going, oh my gosh, all this fear I have of my career ending, me getting hurt, all this stuff that feels out of my control, if I start making enough of this money where I can live off it, well shit, all of that becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why I was on such this like process of trying to start businesses that would take control away from my sponsor and into my hands. So I had my investing, and then I had my first business that I started, and I had this idea that like, you know, how could I be a pro skateboarder longer? And really the companies that decided that were your skateboard company.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, shit, I'll just start a skateboard company. And then I'm the one that get to decide how long I get to be pro. I thought it was adding longevity to my career, right? So what ended up happening is I started the board company, and yes, I had the ability to choose if I could be pro or not, but the main income comes from a shoe sponsor. A shoe sponsor is just the company I never started. We started a craft brewery. So when I lost my shoe sponsor, all my income went away other than the little skateboard company I owned. Okay. So I could like say, oh yeah, you can still be a pro, but all my income was gone. So when that happened and going through this transition of I wasn't a pro skateboarder anymore, the company that we had started in San Diego, the craft brewery, we had sold. So we didn't own that anymore. And I was at this place where I started brands, sold them, owned a couple little brands, lost my career, and all of a sudden I had to work through this like identity issue that I wasn't really planning on being faced with, right?
How long ago was this?
This was 3 years ago.
So this is recent.
This is recently. So like basically going back to the financial arm, right? I was so convinced that if I figured out my money and put myself in a position of safety where if I lost my career, I was fine, I seriously thought I was fine. And then my career ends up ending and I don't have to figure out how to survive and I'm completely lost. It was the first time in my life where I was like, look, I knew who I was. I don't know who I am now.
Lost your identity.
Lost my identity, lost my purpose, lost my, all of it, right? And in that process, it was, humbling is not the right word.
Heartbreaking, no?
If there was a word
Feeling
better
lost to
than
me is
devastating,
That's
it was
devastated is heartbroken.
Oh yeah, it was awful, right?
Like you just depressed.
Dude, the only thing I could explain is like, and I didn't even have words for it back then, but it was like, when you say like I didn't know who I was, the only thing I was telling myself is how do I get back to me?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going through these like, okay, well look, I lost my identity. How do I get back to feeling me? I need to find that next thing of who I am, right? I was Mikey Taylor, the pro skateboarder. I'm gonna start a new company and I'm gonna be Mikey Taylor, this guy, and that's how I'm gonna feel like me again. And I started trying to come up with all these ideas for these new companies and none of them were authentic. It wasn't like skateboarding where it grabbed me and I was like, I love this, I'm doing it. It felt like I was forcing something to fill a void inside myself, right? And so I was gonna do a shoe company. And like, I was like, what, I'm gonna do a shoe company, the shoe company that kicked me off, I'm gonna start a company, make it bigger than them, that's my revenge, right? And so I do a business plan, I get the deck done, we get samples from China, I'm looking at this shoe and I'm going, why am I doing this?
You're not obsessed with shoes.
No, like this isn't what I'm meant to be. And it was like through that process where I was like, okay, you know what? I need to figure out like who I truly am. Like if I'm relying on the thing I'm doing as my identity, that's susceptible of a lot of different things happening to destroy me, right? Like what is it about me? Who am I? What do I want to be? And in that moment of me, like really at my knees, I had to do a lot of like soul searching to like find myself. And as I was going through that process, I randomly got a phone call from a friend who was another pro skateboarder, and he called me to check in on me. He was like, dude, like, are you okay? Like, we don't see you, we don't hear from you. And as I'm telling him all these things I'm working through, and you know, it was very weird. He heard me, but not really, right? He was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But like, how are you? And I was like, dude, I just told you how I am.
Not good.
Like, this is brutal. And he goes, no, dude, like, how are you? Like, how are you financially is what he meant. Right? And I was like, I had said something like, oh, dude, yeah, like, thankfully, like, I'm okay on that end. Right? And he goes, dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, that is incredible. Like, you have a home, you have a wife, you have kids. I get that this is tough, but like, dude, you're in a position to figure it out. You don't have to go find out how to make money tomorrow. And it was like that like moment where I was like, well, shit. Like, yeah, what is, you know?
He's right.
Yeah, and it really like put me in this place to go, you know what? I was so scared about what was gonna happen after my career that I did something about trying to create a plan. And then I met this guy that helped me formulate it. And all of the sacrifice and steps I made put me into this position. But all of my friends that I saw, they didn't have that type of guidance. They didn't understand or have somebody help them put a plan into work.
But here's why, and I hope everybody watching or listening understands that. Because you went out there and put yourself around the right people and you asked the right questions because you wanted more.
Exactly.
You did it.
100%.
That's why.
But this is the thing now, right? Skateboarding is like, it's a very tight-knit community, right? Like when we do things, we do them together. Yeah. So when I would go to spots, like I would go with like 10, 15 of my friends, and it would all be like, let's all get tricks. Like we win together, we lose together. And then I found myself feeling very isolated. I had lost all that, right? I no longer saw these guys skating every day. And beyond that, I was in this very unique situation where like, I had kind of figured out how to put myself in a good position after my career. And so I just didn't feel like that was the goal that I wanted to achieve. I wanted us all to be in this position. And that's what led me to start this company. It was like, what could I do to help? What could I do to help all of my friends who are still skating plan for their transition like I did. And that's where the new company came. And when I looked at like all the money that I had made through skateboarding, when I made the money through selling our company, lump sums of money never did it for me because I just spent that money.
Yeah.
I needed to put my money to work so that I could count on new money coming in without that golden egg going away.
Exactly.
Right?
Passive income.
Yeah.
Money that comes every month.
100%.
Every month.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming.
So that's what led to me starting this new company. And so that is pretty much everything I spend my time on.
So commune capital. So that's what I like about you, actually. We're similar in so many ways. So, because you wanted, the truth is you wanted to give back and help out your friends, and it's going to help them make money at the same time. It's going to help you make money,
Yeah.
and it's going to improve your life and it's going to improve their life.
Yeah.
So you started the commune capital, and you got all your friends to invest with you, and it's a huge opportunity for them too.
Yes.
I mean, that's awesome.
I mean, totally, yeah.
So
I was able to take something that was so close to my heart through skateboarding and all the enjoyment I had in investing, and became this new like drive and obsession in this new company where like, dude, this new company has nothing to do with skateboarding. And I am as obsessed and happy and fulfilled doing this as I was as a pro skateboarder.
I love that.
You know?
I love that. You know, it's funny. It kind of reminds me of the TV show Ballers. I just started watching
Yeah,
Ballers,
that's a
and
good show.
I love that show.
Yeah.
Because The Rock, you know, in the show, it's like he's a good guy, and those are his good friends, and he's watching them just getting screwed, and he feels guilty about making money. I'm like, no, it's okay to make money off your friends and family and people you know, as long as they're making money and everybody's happy and everybody's making money.
Totally.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? I would rather help my friends make money than someone else not steal money from them.
Dude, 100%. And like, look, like, dude, when I was doing a big amount of my investing, I was investing in Randy, I was investing in his fund. So they had their group that was doing work. I was totally passive.
Yeah.
And dude, not once did I ever think, gosh, I wonder how much money they made. I was like, dude, I'm making money. Like, dude, I'm totally fine. Like, dude, there's a split here. You're using my capital to do the project, but you're doing the project. There has to be a split there.
Yeah,
I'm totally fine with that.
I love real estate investment. I just love everything about it. So how long has Commune Capital been going, and how many projects have you guys done?
So from the idea of it, it was, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It took about 7 months to get the thing launched, about 8 months to get launched, so it's been a little over a year now. We have a project that we are in lease up now that we pretty much finished in Long Beach.
Awesome.
We have a project we're working on in Ohio right now, and then we're looking at a new project actually local by us. So 2 projects that sit inside of the fund. It looks like a new one that we are hopefully going to move forward on.
How many units are the out-of-state projects?
Almost 400.
400 each? No, 400 total.
No. The project here is small. The project here is 34. The one in Ohio is almost 400.
Wow, that's a big.
It's a big project.
Big project.
It was a Sears building. We bought a Sears building that we're knocking down and developing on. So it's actually being mixed use. So we'll have 10,000 square feet of retail. It's 375 units of living, 2 restaurants, a park. It's a whole little community.
So I already know people listening in on this or watching this, they're going to say, well, how do you know how to do all that stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So people say, well, how do you know how to do it? And I said, I don't know how to do all that stuff, but I know how to find people that do know how to do that stuff.
So I'm so glad you said that. So just so you know, and everybody listening, everything that I will ever do will be with people, right? And really, dude, everything I learned was like a fluke, right? I learned that because when I started skateboarding and wanted to start my own business, I still had a career. So the only way I could figure out how to do 2 at one time is creating a team to help me do this one while I was focusing a good amount of my time on this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer of teams, and I have just over time gotten really good at finding amazing people to help create our overall vision.
But that's what it takes. So many people, they're thinking like you're out there with a hammer building that. No, it's all like for me, what I'm good at is I'm good at finding people that are good at the things I want them to do.
And we have a lot in common, man.
Right? It's like, okay, like I'm good at finding talent. Like I want to do these big things. I know lawyers, I know contractors, I know real estate agents. Like I know all these different things, and I'm really just a creative director, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
I'm the artist, right? I design the plan, I have the idea, I come up with the concept,
and
then you hire the right people to implement while you go off and work on your next project.
Yeah, it's like a funny story for you.
Yes, good.
So Randy, who I told you was my mentor. When I started my first company, I had no idea how to start a company, right? Randy was the only like smart businessman I knew. Randy, can you show me how to do business? Yeah, sure. Walks me through how to start a business plan, right? And so I go off and start my first business. When we started St. Archer, we had to raise money, which I had none of us had any experience in.
And St. Archer
was the brewery.
Is a brewery.
Yeah, so we had to raise money for that. And me and my two partners, one was another pro skateboarder and one was a filmmaker. We had no idea how to raise money. So we call Randy, sit in his office. Randy, we have this idea. How do we raise money? So he walks us. I mean, dude, at this point, I had no clue what a PPM was, what a sub-agreement was. I didn't even know what an investor would ask. So he walked us through the whole process, helped us build everything out, business plan, our pitch, and then sent us on our way. And we went out and did it, right? So when my career ended, I was up until the point where I knew how to start a business, I knew how to launch a brand, I knew how to raise money, I knew how to invest in real estate. I didn't know how to run a real estate fund, right? So I create my whole deck, I call Randy, I got a new one for you, I just need a little bit of guidance. Show him everything I'm doing, the vision, what I want to accomplish, what I want to invest in. And he goes, I think we should do this one together. It was the first time he didn't go, yep, this is how you do it.
Call this guy.
So it was really cool that I had this relationship with him who was my intro in understanding money, my intro in understanding investing, was the person who helped me launch all these brands, and then for it to come full circle to like full partnership, and we became really close through those years. So it's been, this has been a cool one, man. This one's like, it feels bigger than us by the whole process in which it happened.
No, it's amazing. Like myself, I'm working on starting a fund just like you, and I'm new into this too. And I'm really excited about it. And I'm getting all the pieces in place. So it's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you because I know what a challenge it is, and I know how exciting it is. And like I said, the big takeaway that right now is everybody needs to understand. You don't need to know how to do everything. You need to find people that know how to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
And guess what? There's this amazing thing called Google out there, and that's also pretty darn helpful.
Yep, I agree.
So talk about skateboarding. A practice and discipline leads to progression. So you learn the kickflip, you learn the ollie, and then as you're learning more tricks, you're getting better and better and better, and you're utilizing the skills you learned before for the new tricks, right? Mm-hmm. And then you start mixing tricks together, right? So now you're doing a kickflip onto a rail.
Yeah.
So real estate is kind of the same way where, you don't just start with this huge, 400 unit project, right? You start with an idea, and then you start with maybe one property, and then you practice, and then you get better. And that's how you improve, especially as a real estate investor. Because I think I have an idea what the key to your success is, right? So you've not only become successful in real estate, you've not only become successful as a skateboarder, a successful entrepreneur, a successful family man. So what is your key to success?
So my key to success ultimately is being willing to put in the time and energy and work to becoming great, right? And really when I started learning that through skating, it really gave me a lot of confidence because I no longer looked at the world as I have to be good and great to be successful. I started looking at it as I could be successful at whatever I want as long as I'm willing to put in the work to achieve it. So everything I go into has that principle in mind. It's, okay, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna spend time getting great, and as I spend more time, I become better, which leads to me being more successful. So it's like, dude, put in the time, put in the energy, put in the work, it will pay off. Just don't stop until it happens.
Yeah, and here's something that's really important for people to understand. You put in the time and the work because you wanted to. So if you try to go do something you didn't really want or you didn't have a passion for, let's just be honest, you wouldn't be successful at it. Like me, I couldn't have gone, I could have, but it would have been awful. I could have gone to USC and got a degree, but it would have been the worst experience of my life because that is not something I wanted at all.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. I hated classrooms. I hated studying. I hated everything about school. Literally gave me anxiety. My motivating factor that got me into the business world was my hate for school.
Yeah.
I hated school so bad. I'm not kidding you. I hated school so bad. I was willing to do whatever it took not to go. My last day in school, I was 20 years old. I was in college. It was a class at night from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. It was about rocks in Canada. And I remember I had a long day at the real estate office, and I was sitting in this big stadium. And I remember I was having anxiety attack. I used to get a lot of anxiety because I hated it. I'm like, how is this gonna help me make money? How is this gonna make me great? I don't give a shit about these rocks. And I remember talking to myself, and I made a decision: leave school right now and never come back, or not. And I had a choice. I left my backpack, my books, my pens, everything in that classroom. I walked out. And I never went back. That's how I left school. And guess what I did? I went all in because I didn't have money to go buy the books again and the backpack again and all those different things.
Yeah.
I know I got a little bit off subject, but
I love that you made that point.
Yeah.
I do, because it's something that I kind of forget about actually at times. When you find something you love, all the stuff we just talked about the time and work, you do it just because. It's like it doesn't become this idea of like, okay, I have to like torture myself for 5 years. You love it so much that just becomes part of your process. And dude, that is by far the best way to do it.
Yeah, think about our lives, right? Today is a Wednesday afternoon. It's 11 a.m. We're sitting here laughing, having fun, talking, sharing stories. Like, this is our work.
Yeah.
Like, this is our work. And you have people out there picking up trash. You have people cleaning windows. You have people knocking door to door. By the way, I've done all those things.
Yeah.
But we made a choice to live a life that we wanted.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Life by Design is all about, just creating the life you've always wanted. So I had a great time with you, man. I love your story, love your passion, love your motivation. And I can't wait to see what Commune Capital does, because myself, my main focus is a real estate investor.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to see someone go from a professional skateboarder to launching a brewery to starting a real estate fund.
Yeah.
And not only starting a real estate fund, starting it with the person that became their mentor at an early age, which is really cool, full circle. I have a similar story where I first got into real estate investing, and my mentor at the time was my now business partner.
Oh, it's so cool. It's the best thing that could have happened, right?
It is.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
love that.
Awesome.